All right, so part 2 on what causes SIBO. If you haven't watched part 1, please do so. This is going to be, in part 2, we are going to zoom in on the causes of how SIBO manifests within the body. What eating patterns are happening on your plate in your daily life that is, through time, causing the symptoms of bloating, SIBO, indigestion, etc. So let's dive in. So SIBO. So in the first video, I talked about part 1. I talked about there being insufficient amounts of stomach acid, bile, and pancreatic enzymes. These harsher chemicals create an environment that establishes a bacterial gradient within the digestive system. And so when we go into, let's say, so as a quick review, stomach, we'll say small intestine 1, small intestine 2, small intestine 3. There are 3 major sections within the small intestine. And you have the large intestine. Here is where you're going to have the most microbes, and there's going to be a gradient. And so there's going to be less the farther up you go. And so here there would be like plus, and then plus, and then maybe a plus, and then a plus. But maybe here, let's do 5, because it really is a lot. But then there is a gradient, and it does slow down. And so this is what I'll give: 5, 3, 2, 1, 1. Because there are microbes all over in the body. You have microbes on your skin, in your mouth, in your nose, in your lungs, in your heart. You have microbes everywhere. And so what you're wanting is from in this gradient of microbes from the large intestine, as you backflow up, when you have insufficient amounts of stomach acid, bile, and pancreatic enzymes, these harsh chemicals, when they are too low, these get an extra plus sign. And so SIBO is when this happens. You get maybe like 5, 3, 3, 2, maybe an extra third. These are the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth parameters that I would use. This is what I would see in a SIBO type of profile compared to the blue, which would be a more regular type of digestive profile. Little dot should be up here for pancreatic enzymes, because what I'm doing right here is I'm separating so you have stomach acid, bile salts, and pancreatic enzymes. And the pancreatic enzymes and bile salts are going to open up into the first part of the small intestine, which is the duodenum. All right, so let's talk about the digestive cascade in a more nutritional point of view. This is not going to be like a med school digestion type of course. This is going to be a nutrition-based one. And so let's say you have a meal that is made up of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And in this meal, you're going to eat it, so you're going to chew, and eventually you are going to get to the stomach. And so the stomach, you're going to say, great, my stomach acid, my gastric stomach acidic environment is going to provide an acidic environment that will help neutralize pathogens and the acids will help digest proteins. Great, but what happens if you don't have enough stomach acid? What is stomach acid? How, as people forget, stomach acid. What are the ingredients required to make stomach acid? People think that stomach acid and the rest of the body's functions just appear out of thin air. No, they don't. They require ingredients in order for stomach acid to be made. Stomach acid is not like a Frankenstein type of lemon juice or a type of vinegar. Stomach acid is made up of vitamins, minerals, and it requires protein. And so if you have insufficient stomach acid, so what are the ingredients to make a cake? What are the ingredients we require in order to make stomach acid? You need chloride, so salt. You need B vitamins. Off the top of my head, I think it's B1, B6, B12. So B1, 6, 12, etc. We'll see. Check. You also need choline is later on. And zinc. I think choline is later on. Anyway, so chloride, B vitamins, and zinc. These are the micronutrients, the non-caloric components of stomach acid. What also makes up stomach acid? How are you making this acid? What is an acid? Acid, amino acids. Amino acids come from protein, and so you need protein. 4 amino acids. These are the main ingredients in order to make stomach acid. And if I were to take someone's diet and lifestyle and I were to not have sufficient amounts of chloride, B vitamins, zinc, and protein, it is logical that the person would have lower amounts of stomach acid. And now this would eventually lead to low stomach acid conditions, meaning you would have a hard time digesting more proteins because that's what stomach acid does. And then also because stomach acid plays a role in neutralizing pathogens, because if you have lower stomach acid, so low stomach acid, so you're not getting lower pathogen clearing and lower protein breakdown. Both of these mean that if you have lower amounts of stomach acid in your body and you eat something and maybe it's just even a little bit off, you are going to be more prone to having just digestive infections. You're going to be more prone to having like diarrhea. You're going to be more prone to having just general infections. You're going to have a weak stomach is what we would call it. And then on top of that, you would have your protein breakdown is going to be insufficient. And when you have insufficient protein breakdown, it goes from the stomach and then it goes into the small intestines. The foods that you're eating, you want them to be as digested as possible as they make their way through the digestive system. When stomach acid is too low, you're going to make the job harder for the pancreas, which also digests protein. And then eventually you are going to experience indigestion. And so that would be a symbol of when you were to do like a stool test, maybe you would have undigested protein in the stool. And that would be a common red flag for me to look at during whatever type of protocol you're working on, to say, if you have that, you need to work on stomach acid. But then that also means that you probably, if your stomach acid is not good, and we'll talk about this later, if your stomach acid isn't good, your bile is probably insufficient and your pancreatic enzymes are probably insufficient, or they're probably overworked and they're petering out, having a hard time continuing to break down. And so what can we do to address low amounts of stomach acid? We can eat more. We can make sure that we have sufficient amounts of salt during our meals. Next, B vitamins. And so you can check on my website. There is a vitamin stability chart that should be there that outlines which vitamins are stable and which ones are not stable for heat, light, and oxygen. And a lot of B vitamins are going to come from your proteins, so eggs, meat, fish, and poultry. And B6 especially is easily destroyed at just regular culinary temperatures, which means that you are going to want to pay attention to what microbes from fermented foods can you have in order to introduce into your system that when you eat these microbes, they make B6 intrinsically. So in your body, you eat a microbe and in your body, they make the B6. That is a concept that is relatively new that I'm trying to bring up to then trying to make more popular. That's one of my main messages that I like to get out there, let's say a little bit more. But then you have, of course, your B12 red meat, you want that. All of these are important. And then you go into zinc. Zinc is also red meat, and it's also, like shellfish. So you go into oysters. And then protein, eggs, meats, pork, fish. Protein is, and then even dairy gets into all of these areas. And so when someone has a low stomach acid, I will say, yes, you need to have more protein in your diet, but I would say soft proteins that are really easy to break down because the body is tired. When you have low stomach acid, the body has been working overtime to make the stomach acid and it's maybe a little bit tired. And so your stomach is fatigued. When you bring in these new foods to your body, you want them to be very well cooked. As in a beef stew where the beef is fork tender and it falls apart. You want to be able to sip on like a meat stock. You want to be able to, and even having like a B complex that can help along with maybe a zinc. Now, yes, I am a dietitian. These are great. These are tools. They never in a million years will ever replace real food. Never, never, never. They will never replace real food. They are a tool that you can use when you need extra help. And that is always my stance on supplements. I personally use supplements as a type of medicine cabinet approach. I don't depend on them, but when I want to use them, they are available to me. But if you're working on low stomach acid, you can consider these types of supplements now I will go, this is a little bit of a side note, but I will go into say that I do find that supplements can be helpful, but oftentimes people try to replace real food with supplements and you can't do that because the B6 that you're getting from here is good, but it does require, when you have absorption going into the body is very good at absorbing, but actually putting the B6 where it needs to go, that takes calories and work for the body to use it. And if you're in a hypocaloric state and you've been eating too little for too long, your body may not be able to have actual access to the vitamins, which means you're just buying expensive pee, which is unfortunate, but having a low calorie diet is conducive to not malabsorption, but poor utilization of the things that you're absorbing. And eventually when these things do get absorbed, if you can't use them, they go into the waste system and they do get filtered out through the kidneys and you do pee them out, unfortunately. So you do want to make sure that you are eating enough food when you take your vitamins and minerals so that they can be absorbed and used. All right, so editing phase Matt here. I did keep going with more on the first part of the video, but I'm going to split it up for the sake of time. And I just wanted to make sure that the highlighted message of weak stomach acid is a cause for SIBO. Addressing stomach acid and re-amplifying your body's natural digestive abilities is a smart and effective way to address SIBO and other digestive disorders as well, of course, because as you amplify your stomach acid, your bile, and your pancreatic enzymes, first of all, you create an environment where the problem can't exist, and then secondly, you have optimal digestion. And so these are the things and concepts that I really want to amplify, and so that the video's focus stays appropriate for the time length. And so, stomach acid that's weak leads to low bile production. Stomach acid that's weak because of lack of these compounds leads to weak pancreatic enzyme release, which means that you have undigested food in the gut, and this undigested food leaves the terrain open for SIBO bacteria to eat, giving your body the ability to digest the protein from your stomach acid, digest the fat from your bile, and digest the protein, fat, and carbs with pancreatic enzymes for your food is an effective way to address SIBO. Because you are removing a food source for the SIBO bacteria, and as they have less food, they naturally are going to shift back down the small intestine, and they will reestablish back into the large intestine, and you will have an appropriate microbial gradient. That is the ultimate goal of addressing SIBO. If you are interested on how bile and pancreatic enzymes do play into SIBO digestion or other digestive diseases, let me know in the comment section below. I really want to thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Matthew Cress of Cress Dietetics. If you're interested in contacting me, you can do so through my website, through my Facebook page, and you can also stay in touch through my newsletter. I don't send out harassing emails, only simple updates of important things that I am up to if you are interested in what it is that I am talking about. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.